Hi there. Today we're going to be talking about theory. Yes! Today we're going to touch on a topic called George Russell's Lydian chromatic concept of tonal organisation. What? I know it sounds pretty spicy, but it's actually quite a simple concept, and a lot of the stuff that he talks about is incredibly relevant, and it sort of redefines the way a musician would think about music. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So this concept was first brought to light by a man called George Russell. Here's George. How you doing, big man? He's not looking too bad. So what George is trying to say is that Lydian, a particular type of scale, should be the parent scale. It should be the center of all music, rather than the major scale, which the whole Western world considers to be the fundamental scale, and everything stems from that. So I'll quickly play you both scales, and you'll be able to decide for yourself which one you think sounds better. So here's a normal major scale, and here's the Lydian scale that George claims to be the parent scale. So you can hear the difference in that fourth note. Here's the major scale, and here's the Lydian scale. So the difference is a semitone. Let's get into some really gnarly, gritty stuff. Can we cue some explosions, please? Thank you very much. There's a fundamental principle in nature, in physics, and in sound in general. If you play a note, there are other pitches hanging out above and below that note. So for example, if I play a C, there'll be a number of different pitches above that note, and those consist of the overtone series. In any sound in nature, other than a sine wave, but we'll leave that aside, that's a completely different topic. The organisation and the different stresses on particular overtones is what gives different instruments their different timbres or different sounds. So for example, a C on a violin sounds completely different from a C on a piano, and that's because different overtones are stressed differently. When I play a note, when I play a C, the first overtone is going to be another C, and following that initial octave, the difference between these two notes is an octave, following the initial octave is a fifth. The fifth is the first interval after the initial octave. Now that's very important because this means that the fifth is a very, very strong interval, and that's why chords with a fifth sound very grounded. So for example, if I play you, it sounds very, very grounded, very like sturdy. It gives a bit of a foundation, and that's because it's the first interval after the initial octave in the overtone series. George has done something very clever here. So he's established already that the fifth is a strong interval, it's a powerful sound, it's very grounded. So what if we stack these fifths? What's going to happen if we do that? So George went like this. So let's write those notes out. We've got a C, start on C, a G, a D, an A, an E, a B, and an F sharp. Now you could just look at the circle of fifths and go around it clockwise, and that's practically what George has done. But there's a little hidden gem here. So these are just some notes, right? So what if we rearrange them in alphabetical order starting from C? We'll get C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, and B. These are the notes of the Lydian scale.
Spicy.
So we've touched on why the Lydian scale is perhaps the center of all music, but there's another reason why George Russell thinks this. So if we take a scale, there's always a tonic of that scale, right? Which is C. We're playing in C major, so C is the tonic. Everything would want to resolve back to C. However, the major scale is considered diatonic. Now, dia meaning two, and tonos, the Greek word of tones. So what we're saying is the C major scale has two tonics? I know, it's a bit crazy. So let me outline this for you. There's always a tonic within chords and within a scale. But what about intervals? What about if I play one note after another? So if I go from C to D, the D wants to resolve back to the C. That sounds finished. How about G? That wants to go back to C. But if we take the major scale, which has an F natural in it, what if I go from C to F? That doesn't want to resolve back down, that's resolved. This is happy at F. And so therefore we have two tonics within this scale. We have the C and we have the F. But Georgie, you smart man. The Lydian scale doesn't have this problem. The Lydian only has one tonic, which is C. F sharp is in the Lydian scale, the F natural is in the major scale. So if I play from C to F sharp, also known as a tritone, this doesn't want to go anywhere. This is kind of happy where it is. It's kind of neutral. It can go up or it can go down. Or it can go... It's very, very interesting, so... If anything, this wants to go back to C. Unlike the F natural, which is happy where it is. It wants to stay here. George has presented some good arguments here as to why Lydian should be the centre of all music. Stemming from the circle of fifths, if you stack up a load of fifths, the fifth being the strongest harmonic interval, if you stack them up, rearrange them, you get a Lydian scale. Bang! That's already enough for me. I'm sold. George, you've done your job, mate. Furthermore, the Lydian scale only has one tonic, and so in that sense, perhaps the Lydian scale is more in tune with nature. Perhaps the Lydian scale is more balanced. What's important that we come back to again is that George Russell is not necessarily saying that Lydian is better than major. He's just saying that it's perhaps more balanced and perhaps the centre of all music, which is a very interesting concept and kind of redefines the norm for a lot of musicians. Yeah, thank you George for your work, and I think I'm going to sign off. Peace.